Thank you so much for tuning in to yet another informative edition of Media Monitor. I am your host, Alicia Jali. Good morning. Here's what we will have for you this hour. We start by asking, what is government doing to ensure that all pupils do receive space in order to have a successful academic year? While scores died on our roads during the festive season, we'll delve into what measures the Minister of Transport will actually put in place in order to reduce the number of road fatalities. Now, the succession fever grips the ANC. Will this not cause further fractions within the ruling party? And finally, we'll wrap up the show by looking at President Barack Obama's legacy. But before we delve into all of the above, let's take a quick look at the current news leaders at 9 a.m. ANC Secretary General Gwede Mantashe is expected to be in George in the Southern Cape today as part of the ruling party's 105th anniversary celebrations. Mantashe is expected to address supporters at the Thembaletu Community Hall. The celebrations are being held countrywide. School uniform suppliers may be prosecuted for not allowing a free flow of business. The Competition Commission says it's investigating a number of schools who are reportedly not allowing business competition to take place. Many schools are reportedly not granting parents permission to buy school uniforms at an outlet of their choice. And politicians and commentators on both sides of the political divide in the U.S. have reacted angrily after President-elect Donald Trump criticized respected civil rights campaigner and Democratic Congressman John Lewis. Trump tweeted that Lewis was all talk and no action after the congressman said he would not attend Trump's inauguration. Let's welcome our guests on the main panel today. We have political analyst Mr. Levi Ndo and political analyst Mr. Zamekaya Maseti. Gentlemen, a very good morning to both of you. Thank you so much for joining us, and Happy New Year to both of you.
Thank you very much for welcoming us.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Levi. And now for a quick look at the big hashtags of this week. And for this segment, we're very pleased to be joined by our very own SABC multimedia producer, Mr. Deo Motlo. Neo, a very good morning to you. A busy week indeed as we kicked off the year. The schools were opening. But
yes.
What was leading on the digital front? Take it away.
So what's leading on digital front has to be the photojournalist who was kidnapped in Syria.
Yeah.
It's big news. He was kidnapped on Tuesday. He was supposed to be released yesterday, but he hasn't been released yet. But looking at the stats, what people are saying on social media, the topic reached 1 million accounts on Twitter alone, with 2.3 impressions, meaning above 1 million people were participating with this tweet, and it just took 6 hours. But when we move on to the tweets and see what people are really saying.
What are people saying?
Just to give a background, Mohammed is 28 years old. He's a
can you see a picture of him? Do you have a picture,
we have a picture of Mohammed
actually?
So that people can know who he is.
Absolutely. And has there been any information that has come out since his kidnapping? Any ransom demand? Any information?
There hasn't been any ransom demands because when these people took him, they said it's just to clear a misunderstanding. And we don't understand, but as Dr. Solomon said, it's not ISIS, but we don't really know who took him. So let's see what people are saying on social media.
Absolutely. What are they saying on social media?
As Fundazwa says, protect our journalist, using hashtag Shiraz Mohammed. I think people are very concerned about journalists. Angelo says, my thoughts are with Shiraz Mohammed's family. Following tweet says, I hope for Shiraz Mohammed's safe and speedy release. I can only imagine what the family is going through. So people are really concerned about his well-being. I mean, it's Syria and it's a war-torn country.
Absolutely.
And if you follow his work, he's one of those photojournalists who really goes to these places and take amazing pictures for people to see.
Gentlemen, what did you think of this kidnapping?
Well, I hope and pray that he's not captured by ISIS, and I think it's a very difficult situation for journalists globally. Because to cover those war-torn areas, you expect anything. But let's hope for the best.
Absolutely. Levi, quick one.
We really need journalists to go and cover in all areas, whether it's war-torn, whether there is celebration and everything.
Their
but
safety
what is
to
very,
be
very important is
guaranteed,
that journalists are the ones who provide information to all of us, and we really need these people to be protected by our own governments.
Absolutely. Now, what was the next big hashtag? And of course, I do understand that we will be getting all the details, and you will be putting on the mainstream as soon as we get those details ready. So you go ahead and look on the SABC digital news front and also on our bulletins. Any information available there, it should be on both platforms.
Even our Twitter timeline,
absolutely.
you get more information.
All right, let's look at the next big hashtag now. What was the big story this week?
Lumka Oliphant, who wrote a statement on Facebook in defense of Minister of Social Development, Bathabile Dlamini.
Yeah.
Two media agencies wrote an article saying that the minister delivered the education results drunk. So she came out and said, no, the minister does not drink. She's never touched alcohol. But what she wrote on Facebook caused this reaction on social media. She wrote, any of you who wish to use this post for your articles, go that bit ahead.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I said the bit ahead. So, but this is what people are saying on social media.
What are they saying?
But some are defending her, like this tweet. It says, Lumka Oliphant, she's honest and her action is justifiable. I see no wrong from her honest views. I think people are really concerned with the language she used, and she's a public figure, and you have to be very careful of what you put on social media. Mama Nia says, people of the week, Lumka Oliphant plus Butterworth Coca-Cola truck looters. So she did really cause havoc on social media.
Yeah.
And this last tweet says, Lumka Oliphant, the lady seems to have some psychological problems which causes her to have this occasional rant. So according to this tweet, it's not a first rant.
Gentlemen, what did you think? I see Levi smiling there. Zabikai, let's start with you, Levi. What were your views?
No, well, I think this is a response from someone who is saying, maybe I need to take the step further to protect my boss because of a number of perceptions that are created surrounding her. But if indeed she does not drink, I think those who are claiming that she's drinking are quite unfair on her.
Well, I think the most important lesson that we can draw from Lumka Oliphant's experience is that bureaucrats in government must learn to defend the integrity of the state, not individuals or their political principles, because these individuals will come and go, but the state will remain. So they have a responsibility to defend the integrity of the state.
That's a very valid point there. Now let's move on to some other big hashtags of this week.
The next topic has to be Kenny Mutsamai. Kenny Mutsamai, PAC struggle hero.
That long-awaited release.
That
My
long-awaited
goodness.
release. He was released on parole 7 months ago. So Newsroom asked this poll on social media, are you happy with Kenny Mutsamai's release from prison? And as you can see, 75% of the people who responded said yes, while you have 25% of the people saying no. I mean, he was arrested in 1989 for the murder of a traffic officer. So that's why he's been...
I mean, his case drew a lot of comparison to the Derby Lewis saga when he was also applying for parole. Let's look at some of the tweets that people generated on this topic. What did they say?
You have some say, Kenny Mutsamai, true freedom fighter, welcome back. We have a lot to fix in Azania. Following suit, yes, Kenny Mutsamai, hashtag Kenny Mutsamai is now free. I'm happy, but I will be more happy if more political prisoners can be released, Aluta.
All right, and
then the last tweet says, second longest serving political prisoner in RSA, having spent 27 years, 11 months in prison, Jafta Massimolo spent 28 years in prison.
Jeez, that is some interesting news. What do you guys think about, the release of Mutsamai finally?
Well, it says a lot about this transition of ours. It's surprising and disappointing to learn that there are still freedom fighters languishing in jail 23 years into democracy. So those are some of the compromises which are beginning to haunt us. By now, we should have released all political prisoners after we unbanned political parties and allowed exiles to come home in 1990. So to me, it's one of those embarrassing situations under this democracy.
A quick one, Levi?
Yeah, the process of reconciliation was meant to heal the different the political differences. And if I have to add on what he's saying, we shouldn't have allowed this kind of a situation to prolong for such a long time. But finally, I hope everybody is celebrating that he's finally back and he must actually rejoin his family and all South Africans.
All right. Well, there's a new debate for you to feast your teeth in terms of political prisoners. What happens to them? Maybe we could be looking at that next week, hey?
Sure.
No?
Yeah,
why don't you start that poll on social media? Where can people get all these stories you've been informing us about this morning?
So to get all the stories, you go to www.sabc.co.za/news. Also on Twitter, you find us at SABC News Online.
All right, that's where you're going to find it all. Let's take a quick ad break, and after that, what measures have been put in place to ensure that all learners will be placed in schools for the 2017 academic year? We'll have more for you shortly after this break. This is Media Monitor.
SABC News Prime Time, live from Johannesburg. Police have made a massive drugs bust in Alicia on the Cape Flats. They seized Mandrax tablets worth 26 million rand. The 529,000 Mandrax tablets seized were hidden in an underground storage facility. A scavenging insect which has destroyed tomato fields abroad has been spotted locally. Several organizations are working together to fend off this potential catastrophe. In 2008, it jumped the Mediterranean from Spain and caused havoc in 15 African countries.
On Network, we tell you about Africa's social media and technology landscape. 21st century economies rely on technology to truly thrive.
We have quite a comprehensive portfolio of interventions in the tech entrepreneurship space.
And Africans are using tech and social media to solve the continent's unique challenges.
App Nigeria is an online marketplace.
Radio Vibe is a social media platform for radio music.
That's Network with me, Spumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time.
This is Media Monitor. Welcome back. Now, as schools across South Africa reopen for the 2017 school year, thousands of grade 1 and 8 pupils in Gauteng were left in limbo as they are yet to be placed in schools. Now, these grades make up the first group of learners that were required to apply for their preferred school via the Gauteng Department of Education's online registration system. Now, the online registration system came under fire last year when it was firstly introduced. Many parents were left frustrated when the online learner registration crashed, and the website was later beefed up and was ready for the 2017 applications. But the department said it had received many late applications, despite the process being open from April to June and from June to November last year. Here's more on this insert.
We had 3 categories of parents that applied. For the first category, those that applied on time, we've done everything to place them. It's only 20% is remaining in that bracket, purely because the choice of schools and the disputes that we're having. There's some parents that believe, I need school X. So if school X is full, don't take me to school Y or school Z. And there's a second category of parents that applied after the deadline. And those are the parents that we are pushing very hard to place, because our schools reopened yesterday, so majority of them are getting placement. And then there's the last category, which is the worrying one, to be quite frank. It's parents that only appeared in our offices yesterday. So you can't say it's online registration, because they just appeared yesterday and they need placement. With those parents, I want to be honest, frank and open with them. We're only going to start to place them maybe at the end of February and the beginning of March.
All right, let's now welcome Mr. Opa Bodibe, the spokesperson for the Gauteng Department of Education, on the line. Mr. Bodibe, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Media Monitor.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Mr. Bodibe, look, we have seen a lot of frustrated parents this week complaining about the online application system. What exactly went wrong?
Oh, thank you. First and foremost, as the MEC was saying in that insert, the schools are full, and many of the parents that applied early could not be placed in those schools, but there were delays also administratively in updating the system. So we have worked very hard to try to help the parents that applied early on time, but we are happy that there is some progress in trying to place the parent that already applied early. We've reduced the number to about 9% of the parents that applied early.
Mr. Bodibe, so far, how many pupils are yet to be placed in schools? And what was the reason for this backlog? We know that you did extend the process after it had crashed earlier on.
So thank you. From Monday to Wednesday, we placed 23,000 learners. So that took the number from 58,000 to about 35,800. We didn't update the numbers yesterday and Thursday because all our officials are helping parents. We think that the number is now low, and we get the latest statistics over tomorrow.
All right. And now, most parents are not technology savvy, and the issue of those in rural areas who have limited resources when it comes to receiving information, what other methods can you implement for such parents, sir?
Thank you. During the actual application period, that is between 9 April and 1st of June, we did make provision for parents to go to community libraries, to come to our offices, to go to the tuition centers, and to even go to the schools so that their details can be captured online. Because all that was happening that time, you were supplying a form to apply for a school, and the system will then, based on your address, select schools that are closer to where you work or where you live. But if you wanted a school that was outside of where you live or work, you had an option of what we call a school of choice.
Now, Mr. Bodibe, just to take you back a little bit here, earlier in the week, the minister reported that those children that were not placed in schools would be placed in schools within 10 days. Is this still the case? And when can we see the rest of the children precisely being placed in schools? Is it towards the end of this coming week?
Thank you. We've had now 3 days of school year. And we hope to finish this application placement by next Friday. But obviously there may be delays, as MEC noted in the inset, that some parents would insist they still want that school that was their first choice. But that choice is no longer feasible because in many of those areas, the schools are now completely full.
So what can those parents do in the meantime, Mr. Bodibe?
In the first, our obligation as a department at this point in time is to place a child in a classroom.
Yes.
And we really appeal to the parents to accept the choices of the schools that we are selecting. They are not far. They will still within the 5-kilometer radius. But if we place a child, we will have fulfilled our obligation. And a parent, if they refuse, would have fulfilled the legal obligation. Unfortunately, it will not be your first choice. But the most important thing now is to get a child in a classroom.
Absolutely. Mr. Bodibe, before I let you go, a very quick one. Are you going to embark on perhaps an education drive around this process of registration so that parents are well aware of what they need to do so that they do it in due time?
Thank you. When we start we will do that when we start the process in April again for the next academic year. But the problem was not lack of awareness. I think some parents just left it late because we did do a whole lot of education campaign, media campaign. We also had road shows. And I mean, when the system itself crashed, it was in the media. So there couldn't have been any lack of awareness on the part of the parents.
All right, Mr. Bodibe, thank you so much for talking to us, sir. That was Mr. Opa Bodibe from the Gauteng Education Department, and he was taking us through the registration process this year. Gentlemen, what do you make of that? I mean, about 55,800 children still have not been placed in schools, Levi, and it's already the 3 weeks into the school year.
It should
3
be,
days, rather.
Yeah, it should be a concern on the part of government, on the part of the citizens. But more importantly, is that you don't need to frustrate kids on their first days of going to school. If these kids become aware that I'm being turned back on my first day of going to school, it might affect the child for a very, very long time. But I think as well, we have got a responsibility as society to say, technology is here to assist us, and whether we like it or not, technology is here to stay.
So there is no excuse for saying the process, you didn't know much about the process.
There are people who have a reason not to utilize technology. When it suits them, they say technology is failing us. When it suits them, they say technology is good. We have got a lot of people that are on social media. They have never been to school. They are on WhatsApp, they are on Facebook, but when it comes to application at universities and schools, they will say technology is failing us, and I think that is a bit unfair. But I think at the same time, government should have come with an initiative to utilize both manual and online applications in order to accommodate those who cannot do it online. But I think Mr. Budwibe has to ensure with his department that all the kids are placed. Remember, education is one of the government priorities. Absolutely. And we don't need to waste any single day talking about applications and registration. We need to talk about effective teaching and learning from the first day at school.
Zamika, what do you think went wrong here?
You know, much as we applaud Gauteng's online application, we need to understand the digital divide, which is the legacy. It's an integral part of our socio-economic legacy. Let me just give you one example. You know, my son was busy trying to register at UJ. You know, the system was crashing during the day. He had to wake up 12 midnight and start. I think that was the better time. So you have to take all those factors into account. For instance, I come from a red location in New Brighton, and I doubt very much, even if you're on WhatsApp, but once you start online application on banking, it's a bit complicated. So government must take that into account. The rate of illiteracy in this country, it's one